Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
My fellow Americans, good morning. As you know, the world is a dangerous place. Luckily, America is leading the way. I want to welcome you all to a very lively and inspiring edition of the Due Dissidence podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, Russell Doppler here. Good morning.
I'm going to give you some great tips on how to catch those bass in this fall season. Yeah. This is our special bass fishing episode.
Yeah.
That's what the world needs right now.
You may have noticed, folks, we are feeling the vibes from the Joe Biden speech last night. Can't help but try and imitate that. We figure we can't try and top that speech, so we should just try and match it. America, fuck yeah! Exactly. That's the best we can hope to do. And so we're going to do our best here to inspire you all this morning, make you feel very, very proud to be in this wonderful country at this wonderful time. Watching that Biden speech last night, it was just such a reminder that the adults are back in charge. You know, I couldn't help but thank God. I mean, what would have happened with the world if Donald Trump had been reelected? We might not have had war in Europe, war in the Middle East, tens of billions of dollars going out the door to fund two wars at the same time. I mean, I don't even want to contemplate what that would have been like.
I mean, Biden very often will invoke FDR, and I think that comparison favors Biden because he falls down a lot, but he can walk.
It's true. At least he can walk. Hey, at least
he can walk.
Right.
So I think all things being equal, Biden.
Advantage Biden.
Advantage Biden.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that.
That was like a fireside chat, only you could see him.
Yeah, right.
There's that too.
It was like if FDR had a webcam in his room for the fireside chats. Exactly.
It was actually it was like if Madame Tussauds did a wax dummy of FDR and propped him in front of a webcam and let him speak.
Oh my God. So as you can tell, folks, we got a lot to get to today. We already have a Rumble rant from Taddy Mason. A nice thumbs up. Thank you, Taddy. We appreciate that. I'll be fielding Rumble rants. We are without our producer, Jake, today because it is the morning show.
Slacker.
And Jake has real work, unlike us. And so I probably will not get to post all of the Rumble rants, but I will definitely read them. And if I get a chance to post them, I'll copy and paste. But one-man show in the producer booth here this morning. But it's great to have you all here. 382 strong in the YouTube chat, 145 strong in the Rumble chat. That's a great crowd to start the day. We are starting the day in the morning when YouTube world is kind of sleepy. It's a little bit of a ghost town out there in YouTube and Rumble world, so we need you to hit that like button to wake people up and get them in there. We need to juice the algorithm, especially in the morning. So please do hit that like button while you're here. Hit that follow button or the subscribe button, depending where you're watching, YouTube or Rumble. Robbie's telling me to fix my hair. Listen, it's a lost cause in normal times, especially at 9 o'clock in the morning. All right, this is going to be what it is. That's part of the aesthetic. It's part of the vibe, right? We got the coffee going. right? Waking up a little bit. Exactly. Russell's hair looks pretty damn good, though. I mean, you just got it spruced up for your hot date with Rachel Maddow, so it makes sense yours would look good. Yeah.
I thought that was my best bet.
Yeah.
You know, look like one of them. Look like I belong there.
Yeah, exactly. In this case, you look that hair is the Rachel Maddow hair, so you figure I'll match her hair. That'll sort of disarm
her and Ben Stiller.
Yeah, her and Ben Stiller.
It's like they went shopping together before the show.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a bunch to get to. Some of you guys alerted us to the fact that we did make the Rising show yesterday. Russell made Rising, so that was cool. That was fun to see.
And Jose Varga.
Yeah, along with Jose Varga. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, Brianna Joy Gray doesn't know Jose Vega. Like, come on, how could you not know Jose Vega?
And if you know, look, it's an honor just to be nominated and all that. But if you really look, okay, this is my core critique of Brianna Joy Gray. She means well. She is so imprisoned by her privilege that she does not see her blind spots. So we're not protesters, we're hecklers.
Right.
We're hecklers. And if you look, I had 3 things that I said there. And okay, I understand the hospital bombing thing has become some source of controversy. Okay. Netanyahu,
well, shockingly, the intelligence community will not say that Israel did it. I didn't see that one coming.
Well, and they're demonstrating Arab speakers because Israel. Caitlin Johnston said it very well because they released this audio supposedly of Arabs talking about how they blew up the hospital, and native Arab speakers have listened to it and said, "This is ridiculous. These people speak terrible Arabic. There's no way that they're actual Arabic speakers." At which point Johnston said, "So if you didn't blow up the hospital, why would you release a fake audio tape of people having a conversation claiming that Hamas did it?" So, but Brianna dismissed all that. She dismissed the Netanyahu question as heckling. And the only part of it that she really gave attention to was me asking Maddow if she would speak up for the Muslim anchors. That's a PMC. The professional question was the one she thought was legitimate, sandwiched in between 2 questions about atrocities. And don't get me wrong, she's been great on this issue. And on others. That's why we don't do segments on Brianna that are real, like, takedown kind of segments. We do critiques. But if you look at how she analyzed that as heckling with one perhaps legitimate thing that in the middle of the heckling, that's a perspective. That's a perspective.
And I still think to be mentioning, to find it worthwhile to mention, and to mention in this sort of derogatory way that, oh, well, Jose is a LaRoucheite. Like, at this point, come on. Like, that is a perspective.
What does that have to do with
You're
anything?
still going to nitpick whether or not people are, total Bernie bros at this point. Like, it's just so ridiculous. At this point, who the hell cares?
Right. It was the whole tone of it was very, yes, well, they're hecklers, but there was a legitimate point in there too. There was LaRouche in there, but it's worth discussing this point that came out of the heckling. It's that, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think she means to do that. I think that's who she is. It's who she is. It's very hard to not be who you are, especially when you're on camera as much as she is. It's who she is, and she tries. She really tries. I mean, she is taking a difficult position on the Palestinian question. She's where we are with it. So that's what's frustrating about her, because she wants to be on the right side, and she usually is, but off the top of her head, her biases come out.
Yeah, I would say that's right. That's exactly right. So, folks, we are going to get into some segments right about now. 528 in the YouTube chats. Pushing up against the 200 number over on Rumble. We just crossed it, 204 over on Rumble. That's what we love to see. So thank you guys all very much for being here. This morning, we are going to start the day where the night left off with President Biden's Oval Office address. So here we are. We'll go right to this. We just took a few segments of it. The whole thing was about 15 minutes. Ah, look at that. It's like 2001 all over again. Right? Remember the George W. Bush primetime address on 9/11?
Yeah, only Bush didn't look like he had been embalmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this looks like a strange funeral where instead of putting the person in a casket, they decided to prop them up at a desk.
Right. Yeah.
There should be a line of mourners filing past him right now.
Exactly. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at what Joe Biden had to say in his primetime World War III launch address last night.
Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. Hamas' stated purpose for existing is the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of Jewish people. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people. Hamas uses Palestinian civilians as human shields, and innocent Palestinian families are suffering greatly because of them. Meanwhile, Putin denies Ukraine has or ever had real statehood. He claims the Soviet Union created Ukraine. And just 2 weeks ago, he told the world that if the United States and our allies withdraw, and if the United States withdraw, our allies will as well, military support for Ukraine would have, quote, a week left to live, but we're not withdrawing.
Military support for Ukraine would have, quote, a week left to live, but we're not withdrawing. So, look, I resisted the temptation to pause it about 4 times already because I know some of the audience gets frustrated when I do that, and Russell does as well, which note taken. The idea that Putin wants to annihilate Ukraine is an absolute lie. It's been an absolute lie from day one. Obviously, we know what Russia's demands were of Ukraine. The 3 core demands: independence for the separatist regions, recognition of Crimea as Russian, which had already been recognized, and, of course, a neutral Ukraine. It was never the Russian plan to fly a Russian flag over Kiev. It is still not. Notice even he very, very slyly tried to manipulate Putin's sentiment there by saying military support for Ukraine would dry up within a week. It doesn't mean Russia's going to conquer Ukraine in 1 week. Of course, if military support for Ukraine dried up, there would be peace talks and we would have a peaceful resolution, which would not include the swallowing of Ukraine by the Russian state. So that's just an absolute bald-faced lie. Second,
even strategically, why would he want to occupy Ukraine? Then you have to put all the resources into occupying Ukraine. And he'd actually be in a worse strategic position because then he'd have multiple NATO countries on the border of this country that he's occupying. Exactly. Why would he want that? So, has Joe Biden never played a game of Risk?
Right. He doesn't want NATO on his border. If Ukraine becomes Russia, guess what? He's got NATO on his border, right? That's
he's got more NATO on his border.
Exactly. So, yes. So that was point number 2, actually. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you. And then I guess I'll make point number 3 now. I can't help but think that the sign language lady is trying to warn us. Yeah. I can't help but think that, like, she's not actually translating what he's saying. She's like, you're all going to fucking die. This guy, crazy.
Get out now.
Get out. You are fucked. She starts giving the finger to the camera.
I just got, you know, when I went to India, most of it was on a group tour. And, we're on a WhatsApp chain every now and then. People still drop messages. So one of the people who was on that tour just sent a message this morning, actually. I'm getting ready for my around the world trip next year. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, this is it, man. This is why, I mean, Russell said, he took that trip to Italy and Greece despite the fact that he could not afford it, which is why he's very, very poor right now, which is why we need everybody to support the show. But he said, one of the reasons you took it was because you didn't think you'd be able to take it in a year. And here we go.
Exactly. I wouldn't even want to be there right now.
No.
I got him right under the wire.
Yeah, there's no
as soon as I came back, everything blew up.
Yeah, exactly. Everything blew up as soon as you came back. All right. We're getting some notes, Russell, that you're a little too loud. You may want to back the mic up a little.
Oh, am I? See,
well, we don't have Jake
complaints. I'm too low.
Well, Jake was adjusting the volume last time. Without him,
that's why I'm leaning into the mic.
No chance. We're Without him here, we're screwed.
Hang
All
on,
righty.
let me see what the settings are on it.
All right. While you're doing
It's,
that,
I mean, it's on automatic, so I'll just lay back on the mic a little bit.
beautiful. All right, let's take care of some business real quick. Didn't take us long this morning. Beautiful. All right, let's continue on.
A week left to live, but we're not withdrawing. I know these conflicts can seem far away, and it's natural to ask, why does this matter to America?
It is
So
natural
let me
to
share
ask
with
that,
you
yes.
why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital for America's national security. You know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the cost and the threats to America and the world keep rising. So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine.
Again,
Putin's
just an
already
absolute lie.
threatened to remind, quote, remind Poland that their western land was a gift from Russia.
He's threatened to
One of his top
remind
advisors, the former
Poland.
president of Russia, has called Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania Russia's Baltic provinces.
What a madman. He's threatened to remind Poland that their land is a gift from Russia. As if that's a threat to invade Poland. This is just psychotic, warmongering lying. I mean, this is just an absolute nightmare that has been ushered in by this administration. You know, I realize I haven't had a chance to say this on our airwaves. I said it on the Jimmy Dore show when Pasta put me on the spot, and I said it on RBN. I'll say it now here, just so everybody here sees it. If you're not watching this speech thinking that Donald Trump is by far the lesser evil in 2024, then you don't understand what's going on. You don't understand what you're looking at. This guy's coming on here making a pitch for 2 world wars at the same time.
Right. Well, for a world war.
Yeah.
A 2-front world war.
A 2-front world war. Yes, a multi-pronged world war. But he's starting 2 fronts at the same time. So he has a backup in case one of them fails. And by the way, this whole thing started once the Ukraine funding dried up. This whole effort now got started when Ukraine hit a snag.
Well, what really struck me watching this speech was it emblemizes how hollow the kind of American nationalist project has become, because I don't know what Americans would listen to this and be inspired. He's trying to hit all of those notes, right? America is the beacon of hope, the indispensable nation. Poland is under threat. And it's so played out. It's so hollow now. It's just, who's going to buy this? You know, you could, a lot of the critique of the American century has been that it was always built on lies and colonialism. And while you can make that argument, you can't argue that people didn't buy that shit at one time. You know, Reagan could go up there and make this speech and everybody would get teary-eyed.
Right.
We are the shining city on the hill.
Right.
We are the indispensable nation. And nobody laughed. I mean, the left laughed, but most of the country took it seriously. This, especially because he's this doddering old man who can barely get through the speech. If you were making a film where you just wanted to communicate in the subtext to the audience that you're dealing with a decrepit nation, you couldn't do better than this speech delivered by this president.
Yeah, no, 100%. Absolutely 100% correct.
These are all NATO allies. For 75 years, NATO has kept peace in Europe and has been the cornerstone of American security. And if Putin attacks a NATO ally, we will defend every inch of NATO which the treaty requires and calls for. We'll have something that we do not seek. Make it clear, we do not seek. We do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. Beyond Europe, we know that our allies and
We
maybe
just want
most
the
important
defense contractors
adversaries
to
and
get paid. That's
competitors
all we
are
want. We don't
watching.
want
We're
American
watching
troops
our
on the ground.
response in Ukraine as well.
We just need to get Boeing
And
paid.
if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, would-be aggressors around the world would be emboldened to try the same. The risk of conflict and
they're all
chaos could
just
spread in
waiting
other
to
parts of the
invade
world,
Nebraska.
in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East.
There's a corn shortage on.
Yeah. All right. So there's pitch number one. Just a reminder of what absolute horrible shape the world is in. That this guy has to come and give an address opening Hamas and Putin, two threats at the same time. What's he going to do about it? Well, now he goes into the aid packages that he is putting together. So let's go
More,
back
I'm
to
going
the
to
video.
send to Congress an urgent,
My fault.
Yeah, this was all a pitch.
especially
This was all a
in the Middle
pitch.
East.
I don't know if any of you are native New Yorkers, anybody who's from this region will remember Crazy Eddie. Those ads are legendary. You remember Crazy Eddie, Keaton?
Oh, was I too young for Crazy Eddie? I may have been too young.
We've
for
got
Crazy Eddie.
TVs. We've got radios.
Oh yeah.
Our prices are insane.
Well, they did all kinds
that's
of
what this
knockoffs
reminded
of
me
that.
of.
Like Nobody Beats the Wiz did their version of that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what this reminded me of. This is like a big sales pitch.
Yeah,
There's-
low energy Crazy Eddie.
Yeah. There's like an arms dealing convention at the Javits Center.
Right, exactly. All right, here's his pitch. Here's the aid packages.
More, I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine. It's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations. Get your hand out of my socket! Help us keep American troops out of harm's way. Help us build a world that is safer, more peaceful, more prosperous for our children
Oh, that
and
was the
grandchildren.
sound drop. I thought Jose was in
In
there.
Israel,
I
we must make sure that
thought
they
Jose
have what
got
they
into
need
the
to
room for a
protect their
second.
people today and always. The security package I'm sending to Congress and asking Congress to do is an unprecedented commitment to Israel's security that will sharpen Israel's qualitative military edge, which we've committed to, the qualitative military edge. We're going to make sure Iron Dome.
I think the sign
continues
lady
to
should
guard
be
the skies
president.
over Israel.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure other hostile actors in the region know that Israel is stronger than ever and prevent this conflict from spreading.
Yeah.
Look,
Doing a great
she's
job on
saying
that so
something.
far.
She's not even
Netanyahu
translating
and I
him. She's
discussed
doing
again
she's doing
yesterday
the
the critical need for Israel
Oristaya
to
over there.
operate by the laws of war. That means protecting civilians in combat as best as they can. The people of Gaza.
The cough seems to be his tell. The cough is like when after he says something that he doesn't really want to say, you know, protecting civilians as best they can. If Hamas steals the aid, we're going to cut the aid off. I know that's an awkward thing to say, so I'll pad that, you know. Yeah, again, here threatening to cut off the aid if Hamas steals it, which, again, you talk about collective punishment. You are empowering Hamas to hold the Palestinian people hostage if you tell them that, you know, by stealing this aid, we're going to cut off everything. That is the definition of collective punishment, as Mark Lamont Hill gets into later. We have a clip.
Right. This is all a gross violation of international law happening in broad daylight. And that's why, as we will also get into later, people aren't having it. That has been the most encouraging, inspiring thing that I've seen probably in years, how much pushback this is getting. I mean, I don't know. The polling shows the majority of people support Israel, but that seems like one of those questions where people are taking it as Israel's right to exist. Like, I would like to see some polling on, do you think they should cut off all the water, electricity, and food to the Palestinian people?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
because even the people who are against that will tend to, we talked about this, like even on Breaking Points, even Brianna, I'm pretty sure with Brianna, they'll tend to couch it as within Israel's right to exist. Right. So that's my question. Are people taking that question that way? Because that doesn't surprise me that you would get a majority from what I see, because even people pushing it back on the way Israel is handling this will tend to equivocate with that qualification. But ask them if they approve of this. Do they approve of Gaza? Do they approve? I mean, for people who actually know what's going on there, I only the most rabid Zionists approve of that.
Yeah, and you know, for the sake of time, we couldn't play this whole speech, but at the beginning, he talked about how the Palestinian people deserve the right to self-determination, as if they only lost the right to self-determination this past week when the Israel response started happening. The whole conflict is based upon the fact that they are granted no right to self-determination by the Israeli state. That's the whole source of the conflict. I mean, not the whole source of the conflict. The source of the conflict is that Israel took the land. But really, the crux of the conflict, why this conflict is what it is because they are not afforded such rights. Like Russell said, it's one thing, usually rules of war, rules of geopolitics, when you conquer a population, setting aside the morality of conquering populations, when you conquer the population, you absorb the population into your state. When Rome conquered you, you became a Roman. When American territory expanded, the people there became Americans. Not to say that that was all rosy and happy. Obviously, there's a whole host of issues that raises. But here, fundamentally, you don't even get to that point because Israel insisted that they must be a Jewish state, and they locked the conquered people in a pen, and they control the agriculture, the imports, the water, the electricity. And so that's the whole issue. And that's what he opened the speech with.
That's it. I mean, it's imperialism squared, right? Like you have the initial colonial imperial project, and then you do not even have the question of, well, the Maoris are New Zealanders now, but they were horribly treated. So would you give them reparations? What do you do to compensate them? Or in our own case with our own Native Americans, you can't even get to that because it's as if we still kept the Native Americans on separate reservations that don't have a national legal rights within the United States.
Right. And
like,
no
yes, we have Native
Americans.
Right, exactly. Like we just penned up the Native Americans within sections of Oklahoma. That is essentially the way the Palestinians are living, and didn't make them Americans.
Exactly. There you go.
You don't need food, water, and medicine. Yesterday, in discussions with the leaders of Israel and Egypt, I secured an agreement for the first shipment of humanitarian assistance from the United Nations to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. If Hamas does not divert or steal these shipments, we're going to provide an opening for sustained delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinians. As I said in Israel.
Here's an idea. Why don't you force your good friend Benjamin Netanyahu to end the blockade so that they don't rely on this channel remaining open, right? Like, there's an idea. Like, the obvious solutions that are in accordance with every principle that we claim to hold dear as Americans and as Westerners is hidden in plain sight, and they will not say it. They will not say it. They will act as if, well, the best we can do is send some aid in through Egypt, and as long as Hamas doesn't steal it, we'll keep giving them water. Water. Literally. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. Water.
Well, in the argument, and we'll get into this with Silverman later, and I've seen this from other Zionists, that, well, they could do this for themselves, but all their money goes into terrorism.
Oh, yeah,
and they rip up the pipes to make munitions. They rip up the water infrastructure pipes. Where are you getting that from? Where are you getting that from? These do not seem like rockets that they made homemade from a pipe that they jury rigged with spit and baling wire. These are legitimate munitions. You can't just rip pipes out of the ground and make. I mean, I guess you could MacGyver it, but it wouldn't be very effective. Like, what are you talking about?
Right,
I mean,
and resources.
They just throw these things out and expect them to be accepted as they were for decades. That's why they expect that.
Exactly.
As hard as it is, we cannot give up on peace. We cannot give up on a two-state solution. Israel and Palestinians equally deserve to live in safety, dignity, and peace.
Oh, really? Really? Again, I mean, we don't have to keep belaboring this, although maybe we do. The assumption there is that the status quo is that Israelis and the people of Gaza enjoyed a certain level of stability and peace before October 7th, right? And that we need to restore that. The fact of the matter is there's been no stability or peace for Palestine for years and years and years. And that's the part that they just hide. This is my favorite part. Here's the real pitch. Here's the real inspirational message at the end about how we have the ability here as Americans from Arizona to Ohio to Indiana, wherever he mentions, to manufacture these weapons of wars and build out the quote-unquote, reviving, World War II era speak, arsenal of democracy. Here we go. It's my favorite part.
Let me be clear about something. We send Ukrainian equipment sitting in our stockpiles. And when we use the money allocated by Congress, we use it to replenish our own stores, our own stockpiles with new equipment. Equipment that defends America and is made in America. Patriot missiles for air defense batteries, made in Arizona. Artillery shells manufactured in 12 states across the country, in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas. And so much more. You know, just as in World War II, today patriotic American workers are building the arsenal of democracy and serving the cause of freedom.
I don't need this. I don't need this working class hero crap.
Yeah, try to underscore that. Some rousing music. Yeah. From Ohio to Arizona to Texas to Florida, we will build the arsenal of democracy to defend our country. No, for Ukraine and for Israel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you watch this, and it's just so absurd. I mean, obviously, the left is not on board with it. The right is not on board with it. Not the people, not the actual people. It's just the liberal class. It's the elite liberal class. And when you say the liberal class, I would assume I would include the never Trump Republicans at this point.
Of course, yes.
They're basically part of the liberal class. It's just, you're talking about an unaccountable aristocracy that does not face consequences for these decisions.
Yes, indeed. And so that was Biden's speech from last night. Again, just taking a big picture view of this. It's amazing how we took a lot of this for granted when Trump was president. And then, you know, a lot of us, I won't speak for everybody in the audience, obviously, but a lot of us were pretty blue-pilled when Obama was president. And so we just didn't realize this was going on. We didn't pay attention. You know, we are absolutely guilty of that. We're absolutely guilty of that. That we just kind of didn't even notice that Obama took us from 2 wars to 7. Right, and that's on us.
Listen,
but this is the norm. This shit right here is the norm. It's accelerating now, and I think part of the reason it's accelerating now is because it took a 4-year break when Donald Trump was president. That's why they needed him out.
Yes. That is the sad and tragic thing. Here we are on the left. We don't like Donald Trump. We're not fans of Donald Trump. When you have become so captured by the worst interests in society that you got a couple of left-wingers saying, well, I mean, if I had to vote for one of them, I'd vote for Donald Trump. That is a horrific indictment on the road that they've taken us on. And I think for me and a lot of other people like me, we talked about this a little with the Rachel Maddow action with me and a friend, Jose Varga.
Yeah.
As Bree would have it, Vega, obviously. Hey, I was a big shit lib at one time. I was a big fan of all this. You know what I keep remembering? I keep remembering when I was supporting Obama, there was one theater company, and actually their principal playwright is a big fan of the show. I'm not going to name him. I don't know if it'll get him in trouble, but the company was very left-wing, radical company. It left in a way that's kind of common now, but wasn't then. And they were telling me that Obama was owned by Wall Street and electing him wouldn't really make a difference. And, I was a total lib, man. It's complicated. You can't just do whatever you want. You got the Republicans there and you have to win over these conservatives, all the lib arguments. But those people were right. I actually, after I got red-pilled, I wrote an apology to them. I said, I'm sorry for all the things I said, man. You were right. You were 1,000% right.
Yep. Indeed. All right, let's take some super chats, folks. And then, Russell, we'll do some on-the-fly adjustments here. I think we'll scratch segment 2 and put that for Sunday since we're already at 9:42, since that ran a little long. And that's the one that you didn't read anyway. HuffPo. We'll do that Sunday.
Okay.
Let's just keep plowing along here because that one ran a little long, as I suspected it might. All right. So, Siri, see, folks, you see some behind-the-scenes action right in front of you. There you go. These bitches.
That was the A block. The A block went long.
Exactly. These bitches want Nikes. Thanks for the $5. This Palestine shit has caused a real reckoning on the left. People trying to spin it like the right is terribly divided. But look at the left right now. Yeah, yep. That is a good point. It's a good point on a couple of different fronts. Number one, it's absolutely true that this is causing a reckoning on the left, as this next segment somewhat demonstrates. I mean, I never really took these Hollywood people for actual left-wingers, but it is demonstrating a rift there for sure. But the other point there that came to mind for me was that all this shit now that's happening in the Republican caucus in the House, where they're struggling to agree on a speaker, like nobody's paying attention to that. Like the Republicans aren't paying any kind of PR penalty for that because who cares? Like it's such a non-story compared to all of this. And so that divide is really not
You're right. It's
not
getting
being
ignored
noticed by the public.
Yeah.
It's getting totally ignored. I mean, as it should be. I mean, we're not going to do a fucking segment on Jim Jordan now. I mean, who the hell cares? Fuck him.
I mean, it's interesting on the level of this package. That was what I texted to you when he made the speech. I said, well, the fate of the world rests on Matt Gaetz now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now it's up to him. Here's a nice Rumble rant from a screen name that you could probably only create on Rumble. Fresh fetal juice. Beautiful.
Oh, dear.
Thank you. Do you think Piers Morgan is a masochist for repeatedly bringing on guests I'll censor that just as you have him with facts. Yeah, it's funny. I think Piers Morgan really considers himself this like reasonable, moderate, this open-minded person. That's why he brings these guests on. Piers Morgan is just not terribly bright. You know what I mean? He's not the dumbest guy in media, but he's not terribly bright, and he's not particularly good at debating people. And so, yeah, I think that's why he gets shown up so often, because you're right. It does seem like he has some sort of masochistic streak in him where he gets owned all the time. That's a good point.
I think he has a dame, and this is part of his submission.
Yeah, maybe. Jay Martha is now a supporter on Rumble. You can join on Rumble for $5 a month. That really helps us out, so thank you. We appreciate that very, very much. Let's go to Pat Donahue. Super Chat, €10. Super Chats really help the show out, especially during these morning streams, because we do miss work to do these, and so it really does help us out with all of the Super Chats and the Rumble rants. Pat Donahue, thanks for the €10. Funny how the right are on the anti-war side when it comes to Ukraine. See no contradiction in throwing money at Israel and supporting them, obliterating more brown people in the Middle East. Yeah, I mean, that is a major inconsistency. And even those on the right who may not be for agitating World War III over Israel, like, this is like the Tucker position. Like any anti-war sentiment on the right now as it pertains to Israel is very much of this is not our fight, this is not our business, right? They're not actually taking a moral stand for the people of Gaza. They're just saying, this isn't our fight, what's our national interest here?
It's weird. I watch a lot of the populist right channels and right adjacent channels, and their messaging on this is very confused. I think they're really not sure where to go with this, because on the one hand, there's a lot of schadenfreude in watching woke celebrities getting eaten alive by their own fan base. But at the same time, there's such a pro-Israel bias on the right. So it was interesting. I was actually watching a segment from The Quartering where he was taking apart Sarah Silverman's dispute with DSA. And he started drifting into taking the Palestinian side. I don't think he really thought it out. Right. By taking the side of the people attacking the woke celebrities, you wind up taking the Palestinian side. I think he just kind of slid into it without really considering the position he was taking. So as confusing as this is on the left, I think it's confusing for the culture warriors on the right to figure out who to side with, because the mob is going after all these people they hate. And the general framing is, see, we told you you wanted to feed these woke lunatics, so they're tending to frame it as woke on woke violence. Right. But their own messaging on it is very confused, particularly because Trump made the populist right anti-war.
Right.
So they can't really just full-throatedly, especially with Joe Biden at the helm, advocate for the U.S. getting involved in this. So their message is very muddy.
Yeah, they're can't trying really to take a stance. Yeah,
they're not right. Like their segments are very much about ha ha, the woke are eating the woke, but right. They don't know what to say about what they think about it.
Right. Yeah. Right. As if intra woke feuding is the most relevant take on this topic. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. I was telling offline. I was telling Tusker in the post show the other day. All of this culture war stuff. Oh, Disney, the Daily Wire is trolling Disney with their own version of Snow White. Like, I put that shit on when I'm washing the dishes for some relief, but I can't imagine covering that right now.
Right. Yeah. You can't imagine actually getting invested in that right now. Exactly.
Right.
All right, we'll take one more and then we'll go to our second segment here. Baza, thanks for the $5. What's the sign language for hand job? I think it's this, right? That's what she should have started doing. Yeah. I even know that one. That's an easy one.
We got to get a Biden look.
What's the sign language for hand? Everybody knows the sign language for hand job. That's an easy one. All righty.
Blow job will get us thrown off YouTube.
Yeah,
so
blow job we
that
can't
one.
do. A hand job we can do. That's in the rule book. you may make gestures
send
for
you a
hand jobs,
manual.
but not
Yeah.
blow jobs. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
What's funny is you can give an actual blowjob if it's for educational purposes.
That's right. You can if it's for educational purposes. That's right. That's right. That's our backup idea. You know, in case this project ever goes belly up, educational blowjob videos.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to combine it with our culinary skills. It'll, one episode it'll be sriracha, and we'll just do different kinds of condiments. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Folks, segment number 2 of the day. Hollywood has been chiming in on the Israel war, and there's a lot of backstory to this. There have been a couple of different letters written that have been signed on by hundreds of different actors and celebrities. But for a brief sort of satiric overview of this, Russell cut together a little trailer of Ryan Long's bit, Comic Ryan Long. We encourage you to go to his YouTube channel and watch the whole thing and check out his other stuff. He's great. And actually, we were supposed to put this in the last show, but we ran out of time. So I had the link to the full video in the last show description. I will put that in this show description as well, so you can go watch the full thing because it's worth watching. But this kind of gives a take on the Hollywood angle and the showbiz angle, the conundrum, the dilemma that this has caused amongst a lot of showbiz types. So, Russell, you want to hit that video?
I forgot.
Here we go.
I still haven't weighed in on Israel-Palestine. I honestly don't know who to post. Usually it's easy. BLM, bang. Ukraine, bang. COVID, bang. Hey, did you do your Israel-Palestine post yet? I've never missed a stand. So who'd you go with? I look at my phone, I see a lot of Republicans supporting Israel. So I go, maybe stay away from that. Then I see a lot of the people we've been calling Nazis supporting Palestine. But then get this, the people that we've been calling them Nazis with are happy Israel's getting attacked. Riddle me that. But there really is no easy answer here. You see, I was at the front lines of getting mad at Kanye West when he was doing the anti-Semitism stuff. Everyone was thanking me for standing up for the Jewish community. So naturally, I'm seeing this happen. I go, okay, we're back with the Jews again. I see Kylie Jenner post for Israel. I think, okay, the word's in. Then boom, she's getting killed on every angle, so it's not Israel. So I started doing a bit more research. I'm seeing queers for Palestine. And generally, you want to be on the side of the queers. If you look at the things, you're not going to get in trouble if you go with what the queers are saying. Then Mia Khalifa, who we obviously support, is posting with the queers. And she's getting fired from her job. The whole reason I'm posting this is to get in better standing with my job. And by the way, I started to see that your silence is noted post popping up, so we're running out of fucking time here. No, to you, it might be like, oh, who cares what he thinks? A buddy of mine booked a Geico commercial from his Ukraine TikTok, so it happens.
The only reason I'm doing this is to stay in good standing with my job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He's one of the best commentators out there. I mean, for sketch, he's probably my favorite around right now, Ryan Long. So definitely, if you're not subscribed to his channel, he drops a lot of videos like this. And since the war broke out, he's been doing great stuff. He actually did another one pointing out, some of the absurdities of some of the cultural positions as well, where, the Muslim porn star, she voiced some support. So he read a statement from Hamas. Your work has been a real inspiration for the boys around here. Yeah. We tried to decide which one was the most revolutionary and inspirational, but they're all so smart. We couldn't decide. So he's doing what a comic should be doing, taking the piss out of everybody.
Yeah. Russell, do you want to drop the link to that in the chat, so people have it now? Because we were going to cover this last time, so I put the link in the description of the wrong video, and I realized I forgot to change that. But yeah, so people can go over there. While you're doing that, let's take a look at some not so good takes here. Amy Schumer posted this to her Instagram. First, they came for LGBTQ, and I stood up because love is love. Then they came for immigrants, and I stood up because families belong together. Then they came for the black community, and I stood up because Black Lives Matter. Then they came for me, but I stood alone because I am a Jew. So there's Amy Schumer just pretty much revealing unintentionally how hollow her support for all these causes actually is. Because if you stand up for human rights, you have to stand up for human rights across the board. That's the whole point, right? Like, that was the whole mantra of Black Lives Matter. That's why I defended that phrase. And obviously there was a lot of mismanagement, to put it mildly, in the leadership of that organization, which has been called out very, very rightly so for many years now at this point. But the refrain was, if Black lives don't matter, no lives matter, right? So that's why you say Black Lives Matter, right? If LGBTQ rights don't exist, then human rights can't possibly exist in the way that they are meant to. Same thing for immigrant rights. But if you stop short of saying, well, wait a minute, the people in Gaza are about to be genocided, and we have to call that out. And the fact that nobody's rushing to Israel's defense here. And it's not that people en masse are coming out celebrating the attack. We do not celebrate the attack. This is the new safe and effective that you have to say now. We do not celebrate or glorify violence in any way. I've said before, all violence is tragic. All war is obscene. And that has generally been the take. She's upset that people are paying too much attention to the tragic genocide of the Palestinian people. That's what she's really complaining about here. And the reaction suggests that. She also puts here, an Islamic Jihad missile killed hundreds of innocent Palestinian people in a hospital in Gaza. Many Western outlets published a propaganda lie blaming Israel without fact-checking. Facts only reached the headlines an hour later. Again, coming from the intelligence community, the same intelligence community that says we did not torture, and then, okay, we kind of tortured, but waterboarding isn't really torture. The same intelligence community that says we weren't surveilling Americans. The same intelligence community that says that there were WMDs in Iraq. The same intelligence community that told us that there were images of babies. I won't even say it because that's pushing it on the East Berlin video network that we're on here. So anyway, and then obviously the video that they released, as Russell said, a lot of Arab speakers said that sounded like a doctored video, that it wasn't really
the audio of the supposed conversation. Basically, they were saying it was like a Boris Natasha thing.
Maybe it was AI. Maybe they used Shabbat GPT for that. That was actually the AI service that they used to make that video.
Israel did not do this. I would like everyone to know
yes, I would like you
that it was Hamas, in fact, my friend. You know, supposedly it kind of plays like that if you're a native speaker.
Hold media prejudice accountable, as if the media has not been sufficiently pro-Israel. Somebody posted this as a response. No results for Palestine, Palestinian, or Palestinians, or Gaza from Amy Schumer. So they were just searching her tweet history. Never a word about the situation, about the conditions for human beings who she cares so much about. That's why she's pro-immigrant. That's why she's pro-LGBT. That's why she's pro-BLM. But not a word to say about this. Interesting. This is from Gaijin Girl, who tweeted this out. First, they came for LGBT, and I stood up despite the fact that LGBTQ marriages cannot be conducted in Israel. Then they came for immigrants and the black community, and I stood up despite Israel's racism against Ethiopian Jews. Then they came for Jewish Voice for Peace because they protested my relative Chuck Schumer's funding of Palestinian genocide. But I stood alone because in the end, it's all about me. Yes. Katie Halper, who also, retweeted our Maddow intervention. So thank you, Katie, for that.
Thank you, Katie.
I have family in Israel. I had family killed in the Holocaust. My family and I attended a summer camp founded by Yiddish-speaking Jews where we commemorate the Holocaust. People like Amy Schumer are genocidal cheerleaders with blood on their hands who learn nothing from the Holocaust. Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
on your parent pill.
Well done, Katie.
Yes, indeed. No, these people have to be called out for this. Anyway, we will get to it. I sounded like Biden there. Anyway, I don't want to go on. Anyway, maybe I should stop.
They told me not to stop the clip.
Yeah, maybe I should stop. Yeah, you know what, folks? Maybe we should just end the show. Maybe I got nothing else. I got to go refill the Adderall, right?
I didn't even want to do this. I just wanted to be home with my grandkids.
I don't even want to do that. It's Friday, man.
I had to do this.
Got shit to do. The hell with it. On your parent pill from the Gray Zone, privileged American Jews across political spectrum, from Ben Shapiro to Amy Schumer to Jake Tapper, have the most monumental victimhood complex on the planet. Ooh, yeah. Zionism aside, what on earth is Amy Schumer living in that she believes Israel are the underdog outcasts of this situation? Yes, of course. Virtually every major power, news, celeb, politician, and corporation has given Israel its full support while snuffing out what little support Palestine gets. Absolutely. Okay, now here's part 2. All right, here's the next one. This is a statement from the Democratic Socialists of America following the Israeli response to the Hamas attack. And this, by the way, came out very, very shortly after this new incarnation of the Israel war started. All right. By the way, folks, we have 1,100 people in the YouTube chat. That's amazing. Please hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. 334 on Rumble. Please hit that follow button. It really helps us out. And hit the like button so we get as many people in here as possible. The DSA statement, DSA is steadfast in expressing our solidarity with Palestine. Today's events are a direct result. So this was in response to the Hamas attack, October 7th. Today's events are a direct result of Israel's apartheid regime, a regime that receives billions of funding from the United States, and the violence and the occupation. Free Palestine. And here's another comedian who didn't like that.
Yes.
Sarah Silverman posted this as a response, which I assume DSA deleted. I guess you have the power to delete people's replies on Instagram. I didn't know that. But she replies, "The fact that you cannot hold these two things at once made me sick, and don't say no, look at page 2. Fuck you, elderly people, babies, children, and teens slaughtered, and you fucking..." That's a word we can't say. This video will get demonetized if we say that.
Clams.
So
I think it says clams.
Clams. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for censoring that, Daily Mail. Thanks for doing us a solid. They have murdered some people who march against Bibi and the occupation nightly. You fucking pieces of arrogant. Wow, she's angry. I know I am not my best self right now. Yeah, that's a bit of an understatement, I'd say. I hope so. I hope not. Yeah, if this is your best self, I'd hate to see you at your worst.
Yeah, she needs a trip to an Aspen spa.
Exactly. Yeah, she needs some Sarah Silverman self-care. But 600 civilians of a country the size of Camden, New Jersey, slaughtered in one day, and this is your response. Fuck you and goodbye forever. So Sarah Silverman quit the DSA over this. And then she posted this, PSA. Oh, man. Russell, can you do me a favor and full screen that? Because I'm not going to be able to read this on my end. Sorry. I should have known that going in.
There's something happening here.
Exactly.
There is a very strange thing happening. Many are saying that it's inhumane and Israel is cutting off water, electricity to Gaza. Israel made it pretty simple. Release the hostages and we will turn it back on. Instead of pleading with Hamas to release civilian, all caps, hostages, which include babies, all caps, and toddlers, all caps, there are politicians, cough, cough, AOC, calling Israel inhumane. You know, and there's why I always say AOC, such an airhead, calling that inhumane to cut off food, water, and power to a civilian population. Like, is she ever on the right side anymore? Does she ever take the right position? If that isn't enough for you, and again, so this is like when you deal with crazy people in the comments section. She keeps going all caps.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Israel does not need to supply Gaza with these resources, which they do for free. You know, this is basically like saying Rikers Island does not need to feed and water the prisoners, and they don't charge them for it.
Yeah, just despicable. Absolutely despicable.
If Hamas didn't spend billions of dollars on terrorism, how are they making billions of dollars? Their greeting card business? Like what? What billions of dollars are you talking about exactly? If Hamas didn't spend billions of dollars on terrorism, they would be able to build the infrastructure to support themselves.
With what?
With what? Right. Where's your evidence for these claims?
No, this is all complete lies. And this is the big lie. The big lie here is that Gaza is an autonomous state that has an opportunity to build itself into something.
Right.
Of course it does not. If they didn't invest money here, they could have invested money there. This assumes a level of autonomy and agency, which they are not afforded. That's what we said from day one. And that's just what no one will admit, because once you admit that, the whole narrative just falls apart. Like Norm Finkelstein said, if you look at what happened as a slave revolt, well, that says everything, right? That's everything. Right. That's the whole game.
Right.
Right. And she knows this. I mean, if she's as passionate as Zionist, then she knows the situation. It's not like she doesn't know.
Right.
I would bet my life she's been to Israel several times. Right. And so come on, you don't know what's going on. You're going to come up here and lie that, oh yeah, no, this is the result of bad decisions on the side of the people of Gaza. And I have to be very specific, not just say Palestinians as a blanket, because as Bassem Youssef said, there is no Hamas in the West Bank, and yet they don't treat the people of the West Bank any better than they treat the people of Gaza. So if this is really about Hamas, then why does the West Bank get braided and surveilled? You know what I mean? So that's why I have to be very, very specific when I talk about that. But this idea that, well, if they didn't invest in destruction, they could have a real country, that's absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense, and she knows it. She's not Drew Barrymore. She's not an airhead who doesn't know any better. She knows it.
Well, what has been so remarkable to me about all this is that this is a narrative that no matter what the facts on the ground, they have clung to, at least since my childhood, because this is all very familiar to me, these arguments. It's all tied to the biblical stories, the Exodus from Egypt, right? It's a continuation of this long history of the Jews being oppressed and surviving this oppression. And in the end, if you want to get biblical about it, depends on how religious you are. But even if you're not, I mean, there is this core mythology in Judaism that the Jews suffer and God rescues them from being extinguished, right? So all of that, Masada, the Maccabees, all of those myths. I mean, if you look at the myths of a people, you know the people, right? You know their self-image, you know their ideals. And the Jewish core myth is this chosen people who are constantly being unfairly attacked by the world around them, by powerful forces. They're always David to everyone else's Goliath. So even when they are Goliath, they see themselves as David. That's why you have this such an out of tune take as nobody's standing up for me because I am a Jew, as Joe Biden goes on TV and announces an enormous aid package and that we're going to stand by Israel no matter what. But it doesn't fit that core myth.
Exactly. And that also feeds into the other side of the coin, which is a lot of conspiracy theories that Jews run everything, right? It's like it's two sides of it, right? One side feeds the other. And look, we've made the point on the show before that over the last 7 years, the group that has been the victimized by the most hate crimes in the U.S. for over the last 7 years has been Jews. And Russell and I are Jews ourselves. I sent my kids to a Jewish daycare. The thought occurred to me, is safety going to be an issue? Like, I don't minimize the threat to Jewish people. I don't minimize the threat of anti-Semitism. But at the same time, you have to be able to put this stuff in context. To say that the world is not sufficiently rallying to Israel here is absurd, especially when you exclude in that messaging the fact that the Palestinian people are being genocided right now. It is just obscene to lie by omission and omit that fact. And then she, basically commits a lie of commission by saying what she just said here. What she says here basically is that Gaza already has the right to self-determination and that they have not used that productively and that's why this is happening. to them. And that is just a morally obscene thing to say. Now, I don't know what this fucking thing was about. Was this a troll? She puts on her location on her profile, State of Palestine, highlighted there.
Well, you know, it's the Ryan Long thing. She got confused about what she needs to do to get another gig.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't even know what that's about. Jennifer Jahe, I hope I said that name right. She is also a comic, and she claims to have had conversations with Sarah about this. Can't believe I spent so much precious time trying to educate Sarah Silverman about Palestine, only to find out she's defending genocide against Palestinians. Seriously reprehensible. If you look at her bio, she is a comic, so I'm assuming she's a peer of Sarah's and has talked about this with her. And so she made her displeasure known. Rob Arts on Twitter says, as Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman post ridiculous genocidal nonsense, thankfully some younger celebs know genocide when they see it and stand on the right side of history. Liberals like Sarah Silverman and Amy Schumer are dropping the masks quickly when it's time to support literal genocide and war crimes. Zionism and white supremacist ideology is a white supremacist ideology, so they will ultimately drop the pretense of social justice. Yes, that's what we have to say. I've tweeted this out before. I've said this on the show. You have to emphasize how racist this is when you're talking to liberals about this, right? Because if there's one thing a liberal does not want to be called, it's a racist. But you have to understand, yes, this is white supremacy. This is racism, and you are guilty of it if you do not recognize the atrocity that is being perpetrated right now. Like it is racist. You are racist because that is the best line of argument when dealing with liberals on this topic, because that hits hard. They don't like being called that.
Right. I mean, look, there's culture, and there's definitely, particularly with the Jews, you know, there's the whole argument race is a construct.
Right.
That's particularly, I don't know if that's always true. It's definitely, I mean, there's two different levels of race. I mean, certainly how we perceive race is socially constructed. There's also a scientific reality of race as well. But among Jews, nowhere is it more of a construction than among Jews, because you have a lot of Jews I've talked to about this. We'll talk about how Jews have been in the region since biblical times. Not us. Go get a DNA test. Go get a DNA test. You're fucking European. You're European. If you are in the West, you identify as Jewish, you're almost definitely, your DNA is European. You're Polish, you're Russian, you're Lithuanian. You're from these regions. So in 1948, that's mostly who came in. Now, you might have some who lived in the surrounding areas once Israel was established came in. But most of these Zionists who really drove the Israel project were these Europeans. They're Europeans who came in and colonized these brown people. You cannot, and we'll get into this more with the Harvard thing, you cannot feed a generation on Frantz Fanon and then be surprised that they recognize the colonial parallels when you're to Algeria when you're doing something like this.
Right. Exactly. And then there's one more tweet. Okay, so this is really, you know, we did, as the 2023 comes to a close shortly, you know, we did our sort of year-end awards last year where we did, you know, winner of the year, dissident of the year, loser of the year. I think we're going to have a new category this year for tweet of the year. And so far, this is far and away, in my view, the winner for tweet of the year. It's going to be hard to unseat this one, but this was from over a week ago at this point, and this really applies to what we're talking about here. This is Caitlin Johnstone on October 10th. If I was an Israel supporter, I'd be thinking very carefully about the things I'm posting online in the build-up to what could wind up being regarded as one of history's worst genocidal massacres. The internet doesn't forget. What you're tweeting today could haunt you for life. Absolutely, and that applies both to Schumer and Silverman and so many others. That's what came to mind when I read those. It's like, you know, it's easy to tweet this stuff out on the eve of the worst massacre in modern history, but after it happens and you realize just how vile the things that you said actually were, that's going to be something hard to live down.
Yes, and that's why the Ryan Long piece was so brilliant, because he really captured what's going on with a lot of liberals, because so many people that, man, they had that Ukraine flag up before I knew where it was on a map.
Right.
And they're mostly not taking a position on this. And that's exactly what's going on in their head. I mean, Ryan did a great job satirizing it. That's exactly what's going on. Queers for Palestine but hang on, but Hollywood 700 celebrities just signed a letter, and I want to be able to get work with those people, so maybe I don't want to support Palestine. Usually the queers in Hollywood are aligned, but they don't seem to be aligned in this case, so most of them are just not, they're just staying out of it. They're not posting anything for fear of consequences.
Exactly. All right, folks, now that we have you all here, let's promote the Patreon, shall we? Because that is really what keeps this show going. That is the backbone of the show. So we have a huge crowd in here, 1,200 in the YouTube chat, another 350 over in the Rumble chat. If you would like to support this show, by far the best way to do it is to go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and become a member. You can do so for as little as $5 a month. That gets you call-in access to our weekly Q&As every Sunday night. That also gets you your name up in lights here on the Patron Scroll screen. And most importantly, it gets you access to 2 Patron and Substack exclusive live streams per month. So we are going to finalize a date for our second one for October very, very soon. And we will probably announce that date on Sunday. But you get access to 2 private shows. Those are uncensored shows over on Rumble. Those are a lot of fun. So we really try to make it worth your while if you do sign up. But patreon.com/DoDissidents is the place to go. I think now we are allowed to post links in the chat, so I will post a link in the chat to anybody who would like to sign up today. That is what really keeps the show going. Patreon and our paid Substack subscribers. So you can go to Patreon or Substack. Either one gets you the same perks. On Patreon, there are different tiers with different levels of perks if you want to support us even more. But that is what really makes the show happen, because as most of you have noticed by now, they're not fucking around when it comes to censorship right now.
Oh, yeah.
You had Richard Medhurst demonetized. Our friend JB from RBN, his channel got demonetized. Jackson Hinkle got disappeared completely off YouTube. Eva Bartlett disappeared completely off YouTube. There may be some other announcements coming down the pike soon in terms of who else has to deal with this. I don't want to step on anything, obviously. But the only way to guarantee that we can do this is to sign up. And so if you can, it is absolutely vital to the preservation of this show. We're not asking anybody for anything they can't afford. Don't spread yourself thin for us. But if you give us 3 or 4 super chats per show, give us 2 or 3 super chats per show and throw $5, $8, or $15 a month in that Patreon pool. Yeah. That is absolutely what keeps the show going. Our patrons and our paid Substack subscribers are absolutely the backbone of the show. And as Richard Medhurst said when he made his announcement that YouTube squashed him, he said, "This is why I always told even our YouTube subscribers, please go follow us on Rumble, because by the time they fuck you, it's too late to get the word out. So please go to Rumble and subscribe over there. I know it's a pain in the ass to create a new account with a new website and the password and the verified email and the this and that. It only takes a few minutes. It is absolutely worthwhile. We should absolutely be supporting free speech media on principle anyway. So please go do that. And please, like I said, sign up and support the show if you can. Super important. That is absolutely the backbone of the show.
And also think of it this way. Look at the shit we do under threat of censorship. Can you imagine what we'll do when we don't have to worry about that? Can you imagine what this show will look like when we know we have enough support that if we get thrown off YouTube, it really doesn't matter?
Right. It'll improve the quality of the show because we'll be less threatened. We'll feel less vulnerable. Right. At this point, YouTube has their foot on our neck. Like, we can't do the show. If
this is the show we do under threat of banning.
Right. Exactly. So by supporting us, you empower us to take more risks and take more chances and do a more red pill version of the show. If we get enough patrons, by the way, we need 500 paid subscribers to add a fourth stream. When we add that fourth stream is going to be a Rumble exclusive stream. It's going to be an uncensored stream. So, like I said, make that happen. Help make that happen. We've been getting a lot of traction over on Rumble. We have a great crowd over on Rumble right now, and a great crowd on YouTube right now, and we love that. We're not telling people not to watch on YouTube. Obviously, we need you to watch on YouTube and Rumble. But it's just so important to the long-term health of this project that we have people following us everywhere. And even if you can't join as a paid Substack subscriber, join the free version, because that's a newsletter. This way, there's a way to get in touch with you. If we do have to deal with censorship and we can only post in a certain venue or forum, if we have to do a Rumble exclusive stream, you'll get an email notification on Substack. Hey, we're on at 8 o'clock tonight on the following channels, on the following places. So you won't have to search for us. You'll know. Very, very important. Hugely important. Thank you guys very much for your support. All right, let's take some super chats, though, while we are here. John Locke, thanks for the $20. Appreciate that. Fatal Goose. Thank you. Appreciate that. Nick Quiros. Thank you, Nicholas. Do you fellas catch Hassan on Piers? No, I haven't. He has some good takes, and I kind of like him, but he's a 9/11 millennial, is a bit too pro-censorship. Yeah, he's also aligned with Sam Boring Cedar. Yeah, I didn't watch that one. We haven't been, if you notice, we haven't really been. I mean, that the Bassem Youssef one was special, and it went just absolutely everywhere, so we covered that. But if you notice, we haven't really been doing the beefs and the he said this, that, because there's just not enough time to watch that stuff. Like we have to learn this stuff as it happens.
Yeah, there's not enough time to watch it. And again, everything is happening in such a serious context. It just changes the way that's the priorities. It just changes the value of covering certain things in these circumstances.
Right, exactly. And there's just the issue of time. I mean, everything's happening so fast now. We're scrambling to get enough information to even do the show, you know.
Right.
Like I said, we can only like the only reason I watched the Bassem thing is that it was just everywhere, so you had to do it. But thank you. I will try and get some time. Maybe I'll listen to it in the car if I'm driving. Orange Ninja Turtle, thanks for the $5. Your guys' opinion on the likelihood of a Trump RFK ticket? No, that's not gonna happen.
No, Trump's ego is too big to have anybody on the ticket who maybe approach his level of stardom.
Yeah, that, and they're just not a good fit. Like, RFK's already getting shit from right-wing media because he's basically a liberal on most issues. And so, you know,
but he still
just
wouldn't
not a
do
good
it.
fit.
There's the guy who sacked Steve Bannon, who was his Karl Rove.
Right.
As I have said before, there is no doubt in my mind if he had kept Steve Bannon, he'd be in his second term now.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Dominic, thanks for the $5. Dobular Sign Language Lady 2024. Beautiful. Franklin, the IDF is safe and effective. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Thraden, thanks for the $10. Just saw a discussion yesterday between Dave Smith and Glenn Greenwald. Was great. I am biased, admittedly, but would love to see Dave as a guest here. Yeah, that would be great. I would love to have Dave as a guest. Think it would also be a great discussion. Yeah, we'd love to have Dave and Mr. Greenwald on here as well. Greenwald is tough to get now because he does a nightly show every 5 nights a week. So, you know, his time is very limited.
We reached out. If anybody knows him, tweak him a little bit.
I mean, I don't blame him. Obviously, he's doing, you know, an hour a night, 5 days a week. And, you know, we know what the prep that goes into this. He's prepping all day, so it might take a little while. But we will keep trying. China Shill, will you consider having Norm on again? He said only like 2 shows have had him on. Yeah. No,
we're going to have him on.
In fact, I'll give you my word on this. I will email him this afternoon and see when we can get that going. But yes, absolutely we will. Okay, let's take a few Rumble rants. Sorry about that, but thank you for the donation, China Shill. Dave Morrison, show care, thanks for the $1. I also partially blame shit-lived Swifty educators for World War III. They helped usher this in with their curriculum in the classroom. They cheered all of this on. Glad their wish came true. Well, yeah, I mean, look, the normie libs absolutely have helped this. Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. ZMC McMahon, recent subscriber, thank you. Love the show. Interesting to hear many libs talking about being red-pilled lately. Would be interested to hear if it was a transition or if there was a moment. No, I mean, look, I think this whole episode really has created too much cognitive dissonance for even a lot of the libs to handle, right? Like you can't be woke on everything but this, right? And so
that's
I think
it.
that's where a lot of that came from. So I think there was a moment. I think this was the moment. I don't think it was a transition. It seems to have happened all at once. Now, of course, don't put it past them to revert to their blue no matter who ways, next year, because that's what they always do. But this was definitely a flashpoint. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it's something people really have pointed out about the audience at the Rachel Maddow thing is, who were these people? They're all old white people. Who are these libs? The reason that they have a say at all, they are a minority. They have such a death grip on institutional power. That's why. That's the only reason they're even a voice in the conversation. They don't represent us, but they have an extraordinary amount of control over academia, media, and politics.
Exactly. Ernest Dowson want a deeper understanding of what's going on in Gaza. Listen to this. Tragedy of Palestine. All right. Well, I will take a look at that. I'll save this in the notes so I can click on that when I'm done. Thank you for that. Another Rumble rant. Sorry, I didn't have enough space to put your name in here. Is Russell still coming to Iowa? Yes. Status Quo came to report from the place I voted in Iowa in 2016 and 2020. Russell might run into Jordan when he comes. Oh, that'll be fun.
That'll be fun. That'll be funny. You know what? I bet he does not keep kosher, man. I'm gonna reach out to him and we'll go have like pork rinds in Iowa and do like a sit down interview over like big plates of ham.
That's good content. Yeah, we absolutely. Russell will be there in the run up to the caucus, so early mid-January. Absolutely, no doubt about that. That is our promise to you all, by hook or by crook. Russell Daviler will touch grass in Iowa, rub corn in Iowa. All right, perfect. We got some more super chats we will get to in a few moments, but let's keep plugging away here. Here's some video. This is from last week, but this was great. And, everything's been moving so quickly. We haven't been able to cover everything as it drops. But this was an interview with Mark Lamont Hill interviewing the former Israeli Defense Minister, Danny Ayalon. And let's take a look at this video here, talking about collective punishments. He really nails him here. Mark Lamont Hill lost his job at CNN over his stance on this issue a while back. And so his politics are not exactly mine, but he has definitely put himself on the line for his stance on this issue, and this is very well done.
Quote, he said that the humanitarian situation, quote, will only deteriorate exponentially, and that crucial life-saving supplies, including fuel, food, and water, must be allowed into Gaza. So the UN is saying you must do this. You are saying you're not going to do this. How do you?
No, we're not saying that.
He's saying do it. He's saying doing it immediately. What I'm saying is what you're doing. No. He's saying doing it immediately.
I got you. I'll tell you exactly what we're saying. I'm saying we will do everything for the Gazan people. Once and now, we demand immediate surrender, unconditional surrender of Hamas. If Hamas people come out with their hands up and clear their weapons, believe me, everything will be restored to Gaza. It is Hamas in Hamas hands.
Now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. I think we're actually on the same page here. You're saying that once Hamas leaves, you'll grant the Gazan people food, shelter, fuel, electricity, hospitals, schooling. And if they don't, and if Hamas doesn't leave, then they'll continue to starve and die in hospitals. You are defining for the international community right now collective punishment. You're saying until Hamas acts differently, the 2 million people in Gaza are going to be treated this way. And once Hamas acts differently, these 2 million people in Gaza will be treated better. That is exactly what collective punishment is. You're holding them accountable for the actions of others. That is the definition, the textbook definition of collective punishment, sir. Now, you may accept that that's what you want to do, but this is absolutely a contravention of international law.
I mean, that's how it's done, because he took what the guy intended as a defense.
Before you give your take, this is appropriate to the content and to the number of votes.
Indeed. No, that's just a great way of turning that point around on him. when Ayalon says, well, look, if they surrender unconditionally, we will let food, water, and electricity back into Gaza. Well, he checkmates him there because, well, you're saying you're letting an organization of about 25,000 people determine the fate of 2 million people. People have already started to die of dehydration in Gaza. The Guardian did a whole write-up on this. We were going to cover that this morning. We're going to have to push that to Sunday because, like I said, things just come in so fast. But that's already a huge problem because people can only live for a few days without water, right? And so it's an emergency situation. So he's saying, look, you just admitted right now you are violating international law. Let's see what his response to this is.
Well, I'll tell you exactly. No, had we pushed them into the wall, we're not pushing them to the wall. We want to open a humanitarian corridor so they can leave. But if Hamas,
so that who can leave? Citizens? You're saying civilians can leave, but only through the Rafah border, correct?
At this point, yes.
So they can't come.
Where else?
Your country. They can come into Israel.
I'm telling you one more thing I want to say.
I want you to address that point. Don't just smile, sir, respectfully. You're saying you're making a corridor. They can go to Egypt. You're bombing them. You say you want to save them, but they can't come in.
First of all, I'm not smiling. I'm crying in my heart.
Oh, you're crying in your heart.
It is hard.
I'm crying in my heart. I'm just smiling. Russell, go ahead, because you said that gives away everything.
That gives away the whole problem with the very premise of Israel. That's why he could not answer that. Well, why don't you let them into your country? Well, that is the entire problem with the state of Israel. That is what makes Israel an ethno-state. That is what makes Israel an apartheid state. Because the premise of a Jewish state is in and of itself racist. By definition. What was South Africa? It was a white state. Right? If you were black, you did not have the same rights as white people. If you are Palestinian, you do not have the same rights as Jewish people. So at that point, you can't let them in. That is why all of this is happening. That is why they're not Romans. That's why they couldn't make them Americans. That's why they couldn't make them Israeli as part of their imperial project. Because if they incorporated them, it wouldn't be a Jewish state. They outnumber the Jews in the region.
Yes, of course. Of course.
And you saw he knew that, and that's why he paused and just tried to not even answer it. Right?
Exactly.
Because it reveals the nature of the entire project of Israel. That's why, and I want to be careful here, I don't want to be the cause, but other people who are taking the Palestinian side will not get into those kinds of questions. You know, they'll always couch it as this is defensive, and I don't really see it that way, to be honest with you.
Right. All righty. Let's take some more super chats here. Actually, before we do that, I do want to say that was a bit older. That was from last week. So since that interview took place, obviously the wheels have started to click in motion in terms of getting some humanitarian aid in, of course, with the condition that Hamas doesn't steal it. And look, the same intelligence community that has the track record we all know it has, that's going to be the source of information as to whether or not Hamas is stealing the aid. So we'll see how that goes. Kevin Pravos, thank you for the $20. Do concentration camp inmates have the right to revolt? Yes. Do concentration camp guards have the right to self-defense? No, that's Norm Finkelstein. Yeah, that's what he said. I think that was on the Door show that he said that. Thank you, Kevin. Rosie, thank you for the $50. Let's get the cowbell out for Rosie. You're worth it. Thank you, Rosie. We appreciate that very much. Summer of 1970. What's your take on 1/4 of the Congress holding dual citizenship with Israel? Is that true? I didn't know that.
I have never heard that. I will look it up.
Well, look it up.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I couldn't speak to that. Couldn't give you a take now, but we will look that up as a Thank you for the $5. So appreciate it. Where's Skill? Thanks for the $5. Here's my BTGG OnlyFans tip. Sorry, girls, the Jews need it more. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Where's Skill. Appreciate that. Okay, I think we are almost up to date on the Super Chats and the Rumble rant. Ellen, over on Rumble. Thank you, Ellen. On the racist argument, I used that for immigration border for 15 years. Didn't work, didn't matter. The way one signals their anti-racism is by supporting black politicians without criticism. Oh, yeah, no, it's not going to stop them from virtue signaling in other ways. But I think at a moment like this, that's the line to really hit them with. I'm not saying it's likely to work in all or even most cases, but I think that's the point to make. If for no other reason, then it's absolutely true, right?
Right. Well, because of what they've been saying for the last decade or so. It's very hard for them to argue with that. And that's why I made a point in the Bill Maher segment. Don't go down the rabbit hole of arguing cultural superiority. That's what they want you to argue.
Right. Both parties are traitors says, let's get to 850 likes, please. Yeah, let's get as many likes as we can up in here. Thank you. And please hit that subscribe button. If you're over on Rumble, please hit that follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, go follow us on Rumble as well. Very important, rumble.com/do dissidents. Thank you guys very, very much for being here. We have 2 more segments to do this morning. This next one is kind of a big one. So one of the institutions that has really been shaken up here at home as a result of the Israel war is the institution of higher education, specifically these elite Ivy League universities. They are having a real problem with their students because they have taught their students to condemn racism, to decolonize their minds, to open their eyes to the injustices of the world and fight back against that. And before we get into this, I have to start by taking a very short but very important victory lap because I've said many times on this show, they will not teach you anything revolutionary at one of these institutions. They will act like they're doing that to make you feel less guilty about being there. Because why do you go to Harvard? You go to Harvard to make a lot of money in America. You go to Harvard to profit off of the American system, to profit off of empire. You go to UPenn for the same reason. So they're going to teach you things there about the injustices of the world. They're not teaching you those so that you can actually go fight against them. They're teaching you those things so that you can bear witness to them, so you feel a little less guilty coming out of Harvard with a law degree that nets you a 7-figure income in the heart of the American empire. That's why they teach you these things. When you actually take them to heart, this is the reaction you get. So let's get into it. Harvard student groups face intense backlash for statement calling Israel entirely responsible for Hamas attack. So Harvard students wrote this letter. This was a joint statement by Harvard Palestine Solidarity Groups on the situation in Palestine. We, the undersigned student organization, hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all unfolding violence. Today's events did not occur in a vacuum. For the last 2 decades, millions of Palestinians in Gaza have been forced to live in an open-air prison. Israeli officials promised to open the gates of hell, and massacres in Gaza have already commenced. Palestinians in Gaza have no shelters for refuge and nowhere to escape. In the coming days, Palestinians will be forced to bear the full brunt of Israel's violence. The apartheid regime is the only one to blame. So, yeah, we've seen basically this argument made. And, of course, what happens on the campus after writing an anti-Israel letter, Harvard students are doxxed. So this conservative group parked a truck on campus and, spilled the identities, names and photos of the signatories of that letter. Students say it's a campaign to shut them up. This is from the New York Times. On a campus already bitterly divided, the statement poured acid all over Harvard Yard. A coalition of more than 30 student groups posted an open letter on the night of the Hamas attack saying that Israel was entirely responsible for the violence that ended up killing more than 1,400 people, most of them civilians. The letter, posted on social media before the extent of the killings was known, did not include the names of the individual students. But within days, students affiliated with those groups were being doxxed, their personal information posted online. Siblings back home were threatened. Wall Street executives demanded a list. Listen to this. Wall Street executives demanded a list of student names to ban their hiring. And a truck with a digital billboard paid for by a conservative group circled Harvard Square, flashing student photos and names under the headline, Harvard's leading anti-Semites. The truck is operated by Accuracy in Media, a conservative group that has also deployed such trucks at other campuses like Stanford and the University of California, Berkeley. It's ironic that students on the campus where Facebook was invented are shocked that their names are publicly available, Adam Gillette said. Adam Gillette, president of Accuracy in Media, said, "We're merely amplifying their message." The group is not done. It had purchased domain names for Harvard students associated with the letter and is setting up individual websites for them. Each site will call for the university to punish the students. Now, in addition to that, NBC News reports top law firm rescinds job offers to Ivy League students who signed Israel letters. So they're being canceled. The law firm Davis Polk said in an internal email to staff members that the student statements don't represent the firm's values. NBC News reports. Top U.S. law firm Davis Polk announced in an internal email that it had rescinded letters of employment for 3 law students at Harvard and Columbia universities who signed on to organizational statements about Israel, one of the latest responses to open letters from university groups about the Israel-Hamas conflict that have roiled university donors, employers, alumni, and students. These statements are simply contrary to our firm's values, and we thus concluded that rescinding these offers was appropriate in upholding our responsibility to provide a safe and inclusive work environment for all Davis Polk employees, said the email signed by Neil Barr. Small business lawyer Joseph Gerstel posted a screenshot of the email Tuesday on LinkedIn. A Davis Polk representative confirmed it as authentic. Barr went on to write, "At this time, we remain in dialogue with 2 of these students to ensure any further color being offered to us by these students is considered." A representative of Davis Polk, the law firm, pointed to a statement that was included in the email. So this is from the email. "The views expressed in certain of the statements signed by law school student organizations in recent days are in direct contravention of our firm's value system. For this reason, and to ensure we continue to maintain a supportive and inclusive work environment, the student leaders responsible for signing on to these statements are no longer welcome in our firm, and their offers of employment have thus been rescinded." So isn't that funny how a lot of cancel culture is about not being sufficiently left or sufficiently liberal or sufficiently woke. But once you're too woke enough in the real sense to actually pay minds to the reality of what's going on in Israel-Palestine right now, all of a sudden, the job offers go away. Isn't that funny? They're not canceled for being too far right anymore. Now they're canceled for being too far left. And this lays to bear in full what I've been saying all along. You don't learn to change the world at college. You learn to become a part of the world at college, a part of the system at college. You actually take this shit to heart and apply it when it matters. This is what happens. There's more, but Russell, you want to chime in on what we have so far?
Well, this cancel culture was always bound to end this way. All purges end when they turn on the purgers. When the hunters become the hunted, it collapses in on itself. It was always going to end this way. I don't think any of us, myself included, anticipated that it was going to be this particular issue that caused the collapse of cancel culture, as we call it. But this is going to do it, in my opinion, because, look, there's a lot of schadenfreude based on the assumption, and I think it's a fair assumption, that most of these kids 2 weeks ago, if you had written them an email demanding the cancellation of some plumber for tweeting out women are women, would have been completely on board.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right? How many of these kids who were part of these organizations were not all in on canceling people until it happened to them? But this is the same thing that happened with draconian drug laws. They stopped being enforced all of these kids at elite colleges started getting arrested for joints, right? Their parents weren't going to have that. So they started leaning on politicians. They started leaning on the people they knew. And then you get into the 70s, the attitude about drugs is very loose and very open, right? You're not getting a job at a law firm because you smoke a joint when you go home, right? If you go and you watch movies from the 70s, even if they have nothing to do with drugs or drug culture, it's really not unusual for them to show the person getting home from work and smoking a joint instead of having a drink, right? It becomes completely normalized. Why? Because rich white kids start getting arrested. So their parents pushed to normalize drug use. I think this will be the death of canceling people, because now that it's been used against their little babies, they're not going to allow this cultural trend to continue. It's that now they see the danger, now that it's coming for them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So not only have the students had job offers rescinded and they've been doxxed and they are causing all of this turmoil, Harvard actually got it from another end, the donor end. Stunned and sickened, Wexner Foundation cuts ties with Harvard over tiptoeing, quote unquote, on Hamas. CNN Business reports a nonprofit founded by former Victoria's Secret billionaire Leslie Wexner and his wife Abigail is breaking off ties with Harvard University, alleging the school has been tiptoeing over Hamas's terror attacks against Israel. The Wexner Foundation's decision to end its relationship and financial support for Harvard is the latest fallout amid criticism from donors who were alarmed by the university's initial response to the attacks and to an anti-Israel statement issued by student groups. Looks like it's time to boycott Victoria's Secret. I hope that I can only hope that that is relevant to our audience, but I hope that on Valentine's Day go somewhere else.
Well, okay, so I will throw in a little culture war interjection here. We've been staying off these topics for obvious reasons. Victoria's Secret just basically declared surrender on their attempt to go woke with their marketing. They started using plus size models and they hired Megan Rapinoe. And apparently, people preferred the Barbie dolls and lingerie. Who could have seen that coming? So they lost billions of dollars. Their sales dropped like 50%. So now they're dropping that tactic.
Well, there you have it. I mean, look, this just go. I mean, that's irrelevant to this because here you go. Woke, except Palestine, right? Woke, liberal, except when it actually when shit
when
actually
it costs
goes
you
down.
something.
When it
costs you something. And a lot of people have said this, and I have been among them. In the end, these corporations are in the business of making money. So they got drawn into doing this kind of signaling for the ESG score. And actually, Victoria's Secret specifically, their biggest investors are BlackRock and Vanguard, which have been at the forefront of pushing these ESG funds. But in the end, you couldn't. They thought that they could defy reality, or that, and this has been my core critique of postmodernism. The basic premise that our perception of reality is entirely, not partially, entirely a social construction, I don't agree with. The idea of completely throwing out any kind of biological model for human behavior and human preferences and human tastes, I don't buy it. I believe that we have ridiculously skinny supermodels as an attractive thing. That is a social construction. Having a basic disposition, not for most people, not to be sexually attracted to a morbidly obese person, I believe that's evolutionary, because the evolutionary disadvantage of being attracted to that is quite obvious.
Well, like I said, a boycott does seem to be in order here. And I think that I was going to say
hit them up
Walmart,
from the other
but you don't
side.
want to support Walmart either. Hey, maybe we should put some Due Dissidents lingerie in our merch store. That might be a solution.
Well, on the patron-only shows, we wear the nipple tassels.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. We should start marketing
it's a natural.
those. Exactly.
So if you're not signed up, sign up before the next patron show if you want to see us do our act.
The Wexner Foundation's decision to end its relationship and financial support for Harvard is the latest fallout amid criticism from donors who were alarmed by the university's initial response to the attacks and anti-Israel sentiment issued by student groups. The end of Wexner's support comes as college campuses across the United States are in turmoil over responses from students, professors, and administrations to Hamas's attack on Israel and the ensuing war. Big donors have pulled money from a number of high-profile universities. Students have protested, and some have been publicly shamed for their views. A handful of faculty have been lambasted by students and administrations for sharing controversial views. University leaders are clinging on to diminishing support as some fight for survival. We are stunned and sickened by the dismal failure of Harvard's leadership to take a clear and unequivocal stand against the barbaric murders of innocent Israeli civilians, the Wexner Foundation leaders wrote in a Monday letter to the Harvard Board of Overseers. The Wexners, whose fortune is estimated to be $6 billion, according to Forbes, specifically cite the statement released by a coalition of student groups that blamed solely Israel for the terror attacks by Hamas. So you see here, $6 billion fortune. These people are funding Harvard University. Do you see how all of this is a giant scam? Do you see how all of the diversity worship and all of the decolonize your mind and heart and this and that? You see who's actually behind it? If it actually threatened them, you think they'd be donating money? Of course not, because once they perceived the ideological bent of Harvard to be a threat to them, what'd they do? They cut off the money.
They cut them off.
They cut off the money. How obvious does it have to be?
And this has always been the core of our critique, I think, of these social justice movements. It's never been. I mentioned somebody. I actually wanted to address this. Somebody I think was confused when I said the other day. Our problem isn't really with the core theory of critical race theory. It's in how it's been applied in the wild. You know what? Critical race theory means something different to everybody. When I say critical race theory, I'm talking about the initial theory by Derek Bell that there was an element in sentencing in the justice system that didn't have that defied any kind of legal reform you might try to apply, where people of color got disproportionate sentences that could only be accounted for by structural and institutional bias and racism. That is what I mean when I say that I agree with the core theory behind it. What I'm often critiquing, and I think I can speak for both of us, tell me if I'm wrong, is really the Ibram Kendi anti-racism, which very often gets defined as critical race theory. That's really what I'm talking about. When I say, if I'm critiquing it, I'm really talking about that school of thought as represented by Kendi.
Incarnation of the term.
Right, as represented by Robin DiAngelo. Because if you look at somebody like Frantz Fanon, who really was like the father of decolonize your mind, decolonize your behavior. He was really the founding father of a lot of these ideas. And you put him next to Kendi, Kendi's not a pimple on his fucking ass. Neither is DiAngelo. You took these ideas that were put forward by people who not only had a theory of race. Fanon was a Marxist. They had a theory of economics. They hadn't split it off and separated it that way. What you have now is people like Kendi who are clearly grifters in it for the money, and they're being used by corporate power. They're being used by the establishment to distract from economics, to distract from class, and to keep everyone fighting over things that don't affect them. It doesn't affect them if you pull down a statue of Ulysses S. Grant. They don't give a shit. They love it if that's where your energy is going. What's that?
Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, right. They don't care.
Ulysses S. Grant, they wouldn't pull him down.
No, some will.
Oh, they will?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that wasn't an accident. Yeah, because I think he owned one slave.
I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know that was that they were targeting those as well. But yeah, no, the point absolutely.
Yeah, they don't care about that. Look, most of this movement has been, as we can see now, intentionally focused on things that are not current. They love you getting furious about the dead white men because they're dead.
They're dead, right?
They're the live white men, and they don't want you coming for them. That's why they want you only talking about the dead white men.
Right, exactly. All right, so there's the Harvard episode. Harvard was not alone. Obviously, UPenn in hot water now, too. UPenn crisis deepens. Former trustee calls for president to resign as donors bail. Former University of Pennsylvania trustee, I'm not even going to attempt that name, is calling for Liz Magel, the Ivy League school's president, to step down and warned the backlash from powerful donors will likely get worse over a growing uproar over how the school has dealt with allegations of anti-Semitism on campus. She is negligent and not really up to the job of being the president of one of the 8 or so most elite universities in the world. Guraigian, that's my best shot at that, charter school magnate told CNN in a phone interview on Wednesday. A growing list of high-profile donors have pulled their funding from Penn, arguing Magel and her staff did not go far enough to condemn the Palestine Rights Literature Festival that took place last month on campus. UPenn leaders acknowledged that event included speakers with a history of making anti-Semitic remarks, issuing a statement ahead of the festival condemning anti-Semitism broadly, though not the festival specifically. It's incredible. I mean, there's nothing new here, really. Oh, so anti-Semitism is what? Affirming the humanity of the Palestinian people?
That's what I would like to
criticizing
know.
The action of the Israeli state, that is a condemnation of Jews more broadly. I mean, it's absurd. Like this is just old fashioned. Like, we're not really breaking any new ground here, but we are seeing the response of the Ivy Leagues and the people who back them when given the slightest pushback. In the wake of Hamas's attack on Israel, donors' displeasure increased rapidly as they argued the university wasn't sufficiently battling anti-Semitism on campus. The call for Magel's resignation comes after you need a fucking Ivy League degree to read these names. I don't know how to fucking read them. They don't have I don't need Jack Smith running any of these schools. Jesus
That's
Christ.
to make it harder to dox them.
Exactly, yeah. Stepped down from the board of trustees late last week in protest of the school's response to a Palestinian literature festival that took place last month before the attacks against Israel. As a trustee, Guraigan was among the people in charge of ultimately approving Magel to become the university's 9th president last year. It's a gigantic operation. Some people aren't up for that job. Maybe we picked the wrong person. Maybe it's time for her to go. I think it is. I don't think it's the administration. I think it's the students, and that's a harder problem to solve. Because what are you going to do? Expel anybody?
Right.
Expel everybody?
Right.
Where's the money in that?
Right.
Guraigan, who is the founder and CEO of a charter school operator, CSMI Consulting Group, told CNN. So, yeah, I mean, there you have that. Just another example of an Ivy League school in turmoil because their students, took their lectures to heart, I guess.
Right. Well, and now you're going to see what these students are made of. Are they going to do what the students did in the 60s and 70s? At any given time, we haven't been doing book recommendations lately, but here it is back here. I've recommended this before. I'm going to recommend it again. This, even though you wouldn't think it from what it's about, Nixon land, this book is about what was going on in the country during the Nixon administration. It's not really about the administration. It's about American culture during the Nixon administration. On any given day throughout Richard Nixon's presidency, 1/3 of college campuses in America were shut down. 1/3. This is a history that is almost completely forgotten. So I would definitely recommend reading this to get an idea of how radicalized the youth were at that. And it was primarily the youth. But I mean, so now you're going to find out. Are these students really going to they're not being drafted. They don't have the pressures that the youth did then. So are they going to care as much? Right now, when the others see what happened to the ones that spoke out, are they going to follow suit? Are they going to be afraid of losing those law school jobs? And are they going to shut up? There is clearly an enormous divide generationally, ideologically. And it's very nice, as we've said, to see that, because we thought they just wanted to virtue signal, right? So now we're going to find out, well, okay, so do you mean it? Do you mean all this decolonized stuff, or are you just going to go back to protesting local statuary?
Exactly. All right, let's take some more super chats. We have one more segment to do. Thank you guys for your generosity this morning. Really appreciate it. It's Israel's final solution. Well, yes, Derek, thank you for the $10. That is what Norm said in his pasta interview as well. That's exactly how he framed it. Very powerfully. Thank you. Barbara Howard, you guys are so awesome. Thank you, Barbara. You're awesome, too. You maintain my sanity in this brutal world of American and Zionist imperialism. Thank you. Well, thank you guys. You guys maintain our sanity. If no one showed up to this, we'd be going pretty fucking crazy, too. So the feeling's mutual. Russ reminds me, says Britsman, of Alan Rickman playing a New Yorker. You ever get the Alan Rickman? You ever get people say you remind them of Alan Rickman? You do. I gotta see that now.
I've gotten that a couple of times. You know what my favorite Alan Rickman moment is as an actor? It's a very subtle thing. Galaxy Quest. You know, at the beginning when they've been reduced to like opening supermarkets, and he's this Shakespearean actor. The look of like almost holding down bile that he gets on his face when he says, "By Grandpa's hammer, what a savings."
He was a great actor. He was very good. Great character actor.
He was. Gone too young. Like Raul Julia.
Indeed. Sam Fish X over on Rumble. Thank you. Ugh, Leslie Wexner, read what Whitney Webb has to say about him. There's more to your chat there that is on Rumble and must remain exclusively on Rumble. I don't even think I could show that, but I put what I could up there. But thank you.
Well, there were like
donation.
Epstein was
yeah,
like
exactly.
his financial
That's
advisor.
what he was saying.
Yeah.
He went into a little more detail than that. Hey guys, Mr. Sheckelstein from Haifa is back. Oh, there you go. So you have someone from Northern Israel watching the program. You guys are doing great as always. Thank you. All the businesses are closing in my neighborhood. Police order. Hoping for the best. Expecting, well, peace. Yes, we hope for peace as well. See, we have an Israeli in the audience who likes our stuff. That's why you always hope for peace. You never wish.
Better be careful saying that publicly. I heard they're arresting people for lowering morale.
I know.
Got like a sedition act over there.
Yes, indeed. That could have been a question for Rachel Maddow, too, if they didn't drag you out. Taddy Mason, thank you for the $5. Shadow banning is at an all-time high. Democracy Now! Used to get 300,000 views on the same day. Now they're lucky to hit 15,000.
Wow.
And it all just happened over the last week. Does humanity have a chance? The odds are not in our favor, my friend. That's all I can tell you there. Not in our favor. Not looking good. That Tucker Carlson clip, that's the most prescient thing of the year. That video that we did last month where he said, oh, yeah, you think you're going to get this nice little election, Trump versus Biden. No, it's not going to be that simple. Something's coming. Didn't take long for him to be proven right.
No, it did not. A week.
Yeah. Trying to shill. Thanks for the $2. Never catch my ass buying SodaStream. What's wrong with SodaStream? I used to have a SodaStream. But I'm too lazy to maintain that. You got to take the fucking things back to Target and have them refill it with the carbon dioxide. Fuck, I mean, a case of seltzer's $3. What I'm gonna go?
Yeah.
I'm gonna lug this fucking tube of shit around.
It tastes better when I make it myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a good concept, but it's too much maintenance. It's too much maintenance.
Yeah.
I could never really commit to it. But I don't know anything about the company.
It's not like you make it yourself. It's more organic or something.
Right. Yeah. It's just it's bubbles. Yeah. Wexner have potential real estate in Gaza. Thank you for that.
Oh, it's made in the West Bank. That's what he's talking about.
Oh, it is?
It's apparently, according to the chat, it's manufactured in
I
the
did not know
occupied
that.
West Bank.
I did not know that. Dave Dillarai, thank you for the $40. That's very generous. Did you see that Egyptian woman at a border crossing giving Clarissa Ward a piece of her mind? Was very moving and poignant. No, I did not. Can you message that to us? You're a patron. Can you send that to us either through Patreon or email? Because I'd love to take a look at that. I have not seen that. But thank you. That's a very generous donation, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
China Shill, thanks for the $5. First we had QAnon, and now there's F-Anon. Can't keep up with all these Anons. A lot of Anons to keep up with. Too many. We'll take one more, then we'll do the last segment, then we'll take the rest. SB, thanks for the $5. I got to say the obvious, the Western left is a failure. Yes, obviously. Thank you. While Palestinians were suffering, leftists were arguing about abortion pronouns and drag queens. Yep, absolutely. I've made that point before. I have made that
Although
point.
I don't consider that the left.
No, but I mean, broadly speaking, that's how it's defined here. It's how it's perceived. All right, we have one more segment. Russell, you got that link in the private chat. You're going to need to read that in a few minutes. So I'll just give you a little heads up there.
Right. Yeah. I've got it open. Yeah.
Oh, you got it open. Okay, cool. Beautiful. Alrighty. So there has been, obviously, and we talk about this a lot of censorship in recent days surrounding the Israel war. What you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say. That's why we pitch our Patreon. That's why we pitch our Rumble channel. That's why we pitch our Substack. Because we have to. Because these are very, very precarious times for independent media, but also for social media more broadly. And so here is a post from FIRE, which is a great organization, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. My friend used to work for FIRE. New York flouts court order by demanding social media platforms censor users over Israel-Hamas war. 10 months after the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression sued New York Attorney General Letitia James, she is once more violating the First Amendment by pressuring private companies to act as First Amendment proxies for censorship and violating court orders to do it. FIRE is calling on the AG to retract an October 12th letter she sent to social media platforms demanding they provide information about what they are doing to, quote, stop the spread of hateful content related to the Israel-Hamas war and report back to her about the editorial policies and practices. So, Russell, if you have that, I listed this here as a receipt. It's obviously too small to read, but Russell has this full screen, so you want to read what this letter says?
Yeah. In the wake of the horrific terrorist attacks in Israel, there have been reports of growing anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, including threats of violence against Jewish and Muslim people and institutions. We have also become aware of press reports that terrorist groups and individuals that sympathize with them are disseminating calls for violence and other materials that may incite violence against Jewish and Muslim people and institutions on social media platforms. We are deeply concerned about this activity in light of the tragic history of such calls for violence. We would like to better understand how, redacted, ensuring that its platform is not being used to incite violence and further terrorist activities, including by describing how the company is identifying, removing, and blocking the re-uploading of such content. We request that you promptly respond to the following questions by October 20th, 2023. What actions, if any, has the company taken to address the recent calls for violence against Jewish and Muslim people and institutions, and the possibility that the platform may be used to plan, encourage, or disseminate those acts? 2. Describe in detail the public-facing terms of service, community rules, or other policies that prohibit users from using your platform to disseminate calls for violence, including copies of any documentation or policies. 3. Describe in detail the company-facing policies that govern the determination of whether content is a call for violence that should be removed, including copies of any documentation and policies.
Okay,
4.
so we don't have to read all of these. There's 11 of these. That gets a little boring because it gets a little technical. But basically, you understand what they're doing here. The state is forcing these social media companies to list their policies that their users must follow. This is just out in the open, naked interference in these so-called private companies. So, I mean, we've said this over and over again. I feel like an idiot repeating it, but this is a once again where the private company's defense falls apart. This is literally, they're sending you a letter. They're not even being cute about it anymore. They're sending you a letter. You must implement these policies on your platform. Go ahead.
Right, and this is also FIRE's tweets illustrated that this is in direct defiance of a court order. This already went to court, and a court ruled that the government cannot send letters like this to tech companies, that they cannot impose these kinds of standards on companies, and she did it anyway. So you got to ask yourself why. I mean, this is political. This is, while she made a point of throwing in Islamophobia for cover, this is purely for the Jewish voters in New York State. Like, why else would you do this knowing that it has no force of law and it's going to lead to legal action against you? What's the purpose of it?
Yeah, it's optics. That's it. So FIRE writes here, social media sites are not government stooges, said FIRE attorney Daniel Ortner, See, there's a name I could pronounce. No matter how hot button the issues, requiring private companies to police speech is illegal, and also blatantly violates the court order secured by our recent lawsuit. Later on, the Post writes, the letter titled Removing Calls for Violence asks platforms how they are addressing alleged recent calls for violence and tells them to describe in detail everything from existing content moderation policies to their process for identifying and blocking problematic posts, banning their authors. The Attorney General's press release, so that we didn't have, we just had the letter. The press release goes further, demanding that platforms prohibit the spread of violent rhetoric and hateful content and vowing to hold social media companies accountable. The deadline for the platforms to respond to this barrage of intrusive questions is today, incidentally, October 20th. The law forces internet platforms of all stripes to publish a policy how they will respond to online expression that could vilify, humiliate, or incite violence based on a protected class like religion, gender, or race. The law also requires the platforms to create and publish a mechanism for visitors to complain about hateful content or comments and mandates that they answer complaints with a direct response. See, they don't mandate that you answer complaints. These tech companies don't answer anything with a direct response. It's all copy pasta. But you see here the just blatant intrusion and blatant attempt to create a more censorious population, right? This isn't just about the social media companies. It's a way to condition all of us to police each other's speech and therefore make each other's First Amendment rights basically null and void. I mean, yeah, technically you have them, but they want to neuter them. They want to render those First Amendment rights meaningless. Refusal to comply could mean investigations from the Attorney General's office, subpoenas, and daily fines of $1,000 per violation. Fire successfully secured a preliminary injunction which forbids the Attorney General from enforcing the law against Rumble or anyone else. So Rumble is their partner in this. So shout out to the Rumble audience. And like I said, you need to subscribe to us on Rumble. You have to. Please, please, please go and do that. Go and follow us there. Her October 12th letter violates this injunction by pressuring Fire plaintiff Rumble and others to engage in censorship. Fire's response demands that she retract the letter by October 20th or face further legal action. Rumble posted this to their social media. Dear Attorney General James, Ms. Vale, and Mr. Adler, I am an attorney at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression and counsel for Rumble Canada, Inc. in the above referenced litigation. I am writing to demand the immediate and unequivocal retraction of your October 12, 2023 investigation letters to 6 internet platforms, including Rumble, collectively referred to as the investigated platforms. These letters violate 1, a federal district court's injunction against the enforcement of New York General Business Law 394 CCC, the hate speech law, the active stay of all proceedings in that case as to Rumble, and the First Amendment rights of the investigated platforms and their users. Your letter set a deadline of October 20th for Rumble's response. If you do not rescind your letter by that date, we will file a motion with the district court to enforce the terms of the injunction and stay of the proceeding. So Rumble is fighting the good fight, and that's good. That's really great to see. And this is why we tell you guys you have to follow us there because you see the writing on the wall. I knew as soon as this happened. That this was going to get brutal and this was going to be worse than anything we've seen in the past. There's been a lot of censorship in the past around COVID, around Ukraine. Nothing like this. Nothing like this. And I knew that. And I have, Russell and I talk offline about this. I have a good instinct for these things. And I saw this coming.
He's got to get a shook up.
It's here. And so, yeah, I mean, you have and look, the thing is, people would be sympathetic to rules that prohibit explicit calls to violence on social media. You know why they would? Because we have laws against explicit calls to violence. That's already covered under the law. No one condones that. No one condones explicit calls to violence. That's illegal. That is not protected First Amendment speech. The problem with the current setup is that it is prone to political influence, as we can see proven in broad daylight right here. The New York Attorney General did this, as Russell rightly said, I think, for political purposes. So you are politicizing nakedly First Amendment rights.
Right.
and rendering them null and void. And nobody trusts that you're actually going to enforce these rules fairly and impartially, or even accurately. Even accurately.
That's
JB
it.
didn't make a call to violence. Richard Medhurst made no call to violence. They're reporting on a war that's happening, and yet they get crushed for it. And so there's very little you can do under this current dynamic. The only thing you could do is fight back and support non-censorious platforms. And it's good that this fight is happening. God bless Fire. God bless Rumble for doing this. But you could see the battle that is in front of us here. You could see what's going to start happening here.
Well, and this is exactly why you don't open this door, because once you open the door to censorship, you have the ability of demagogues, and she is being a demagogue here, playing to a certain constituency to whip up their passions for political advantage. You open up the door to demagogues to manipulate the public to ban speech and to favor banning speech and to enact speech bans. And there's also, in the end, to me, the core principle by which the ACLU in its golden age fought its great fights is who watches the watchmen. Even if you believe, yes, we need to stop this kinds of speech and we want to empower some agency to do it, who watches the agency who enforces those codes? That's why you don't do this. That's why you don't go down this road, because it will inevitably be used against you. And this is a point that a lot of people make. Look at history. God, I can't believe I'm quoting Rachel Maddow. Okay, so I said the other night, one thing that Maddow said that I'm sure historically was probably true is she was looking at the history of the intelligence services, the FBI investigating radical groups. And in the 50s, they were all after the communists, and there'd be reports in the files, hey, there's this right-wing group, and they would ignore that because they were only really interested in the communists. That's pretty true to form historically. So if you open the door to speech banning, who do you think it's really going to mostly affect in the end? You might have a moment here where you have some power over Congress or certain over the Senate and the White House, but how long is that going to last, right? And when you're talking about local jurisdictions like this, in the end, they have to bow to federal power. It is very dangerous to even have opened up this conversation. And that's what we're seeing now. It is a battle over control of the means of communication, because the elite class, because of the investment in equipment and infrastructure it required to have a platform of mass communication, elites had control of the conversation. Nobody really knew what was going on in Gaza before, because we only knew what they told us, right? This kind of bullshit that Sarah Silverman's peddling, that they could be Switzerland if only they would stop the terrorism. Everybody used to buy that. They didn't know any better. Right? Now you see the videos of what's actually going on there. They can't control it. That's what this is all about. It because the internet has democratized the means of communication, they're trying to get back the control of the conversation that they've always had. That's what the fight is.
Yeah, and one thing I will also add to this is that I may have even said this on the air, I forget, but I was a little, I won't say nervous, but I was a little concerned that Rumble would not hold the line on this issue, because Rumble has become home to a lot of right-wing content creators who are not going to stir the pot on this issue. They are Israel hawks, or at the very least, Israel defenders, even those who don't want to invest money on it. They take basically the Tucker Carlson stance. This is none of our business, but yes, in our hearts, we are pro-Israel. I was a little questioning in my mind, are they actually going to go to bat for free speech if they're threatened on this issue?
Right.
I had a feeling they would, but it wasn't a slam dunk in my mind. But it's good to see them go to bat for this, because it shows that they really are committed in principle to free speech, because they're picking a fight here that, politically speaking, a lot of their own users are probably not aligned with the substance of the politics in question. The fact that they're willing to fight that fight anyway is a good sign. And like I said, I don't subscribe to the idea that it is a right-wing platform. It is a platform that right-wingers have flocked to because they've been most censored, right? But I've never thought that the platform itself was actually right-wing. However, incentives corrupt, right? I mean, growth, money, there's all kinds of incentives that can get to you as an institution, whether you're a political organization, an academic institution, or a business, as Rumble is. And I'm like, oh, are they going to screw us on this? Are they going to screw us on this the way Elon screwed us on this? Apparently not. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. So once again, subscribe to the goddamn Rumble channel if you're here. How many times do I have to tell you over the course of a broadcast to go follow us on Rumble? Go do it.
Well, today, the people that you're going to find who are going to agree with the proposition, I may disagree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it, are much more likely to be on the right than on the left. I mean, we know this. We covered this. They did a poll recently. Most Democrats no longer really believe in that principle.
Right. Exactly. See, here we go. Extra Bulla gives Rumble a great plug. I got paid $2 on Rumble for talking about butt plugs on my show, so I love Rumble. Been good to me so far. See? Thank you, Bulla. Appreciate that important perspective. All right. That's our show. We got some super chats to get to before we wrap for the day. Thank you all so much for being here. What a crowd. I think this may have been a record crowd for our stream in recent days. 1150 in the YouTube chat right now.
Especially for Friday morning. I think that's partly because once this issue erupted, we had a big influx of overseas subscribers.
Yeah, that could be. So this is mid-afternoon for a lot of you guys. 1150 in YouTube chat, 424 on Rumble chat. That's amazing. McDougal, thanks for the $9.99. Just want to say, love your guys' stuff. Thank you. Holding out hope you will join us in MAGA. Trump isn't perfect, but at least he is his own force and is the very least willing to look out for America first. Look, I've said he is the lesser evil to Biden. There's no question about that. Look at what's going on around you, for Christ's sake. I mean, there's no question about that. Like, I won't be MAGA. That's just not my politics. But I have no problem admitting it's not difficult for me to say who's the lesser evil, Trump or Biden. Obviously, Donald Trump. Look at what's happening in the world right now. Look at what's going on. I don't even see how it's controversial to say that Trump is the lesser evil. I don't even see how that's an argument. Right. So yes,
we have to find out what the hell is going on.
Right, exactly. We have to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it's not my politics, and I'm not really a joiner. I think that's probably true of Keaton too.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, don't size us for red hats, but at the same time, I have absolutely no problem admitting that he's the lesser evil to Joe Biden. There's just there's no question about it.
We said that on Pasta. I think he thought we were going to squirm with that question. We were like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think he was setting us up. He meant to put us on the hot seat there. And I remember you said, that's not a hard one. This isn't a hard one. Janice Anderson, thank you for the $9.99. We should flip the script. Palestinian people are one of the Semitic tribes. Yeah, I've heard this argument made before. It's accurate. We should be consistently calling the ones mislabeling anti-Zionists as anti-Semitic. Yes, the anti-Semites, they absolutely are. Yeah, good point. Very good point. RBGH fam, thanks for the $10. Love your guys' sense of humor. Great show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Probably don't agree on economics because most progressives believe MMT works without bombing the shit out of other countries to get your way, but who knows? Well, no, this is a conversation we had.
Yeah.
It seems like MMT relies on empire, right? It seems like MMT relies
they always
on...
come for us. We've actually pushed back on MMT.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Seems like to me. I won't say who said this to us because I don't want to out them. If they don't want to be. But they said, just hearing about this sounds like the biggest gift to the military-industrial complex that you could possibly have.
Right. You could just print their money for more.
Right.
Bombs,
just infinite spending, and what bolsters that, what undergirds that is empire. So, I mean, you couldn't get a sweeter deal.
Yeah. We are MMT skeptics.
Yeah. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. Thanks, Russ and Keaton. Stay strong. Thank you. Appreciate that, Pete Sweet. Let me speak freely about butt plugs. Look at that extra bullet paying it forward, given the $2 he made on butt plug talk. and giving it to us on Butt Plug Talk. We'll have to super chat Jimmy Dore with a Butt Plug comment for you. We'll keep it going.
Special patron segment next time.
Yeah, exactly. Keep that going. Keep the goodwill flowing. Okay, folks, I believe that is our show for this morning. Just want to make sure we got all of our Rumble rants taken care of. Thank you guys very much for your generosity this morning. Thank you for those Rumble rants. They are hugely helpful and hugely important, as are the Super Chats, as are the Patreon subscriptions. Once again, if you like what we do and you want to help us keep going, by far the best way to do that, become a member. It is absolutely hugely important that we drive up our members. Like Russell said, not only do you get perks for being a member, exclusive shows for being a member, but you make the show better, because the less pressure we're under to stay on YouTube's good side, the freer we can be on the show. It makes the show better. And so if you sign up, patreon.com/do-this, and it's for as little as $5 a month, you get a shout out in the credits. You get call-in access to our Sunday Q&As, as well as 2 exclusive streams. And by the way, to those who did sign up, Jake still has to teach me how to add names to the scroll. We'll probably automate it so that we could just have that happening. The Friday morning shows, he's not here, so we don't update the scroll for the Friday shows. But the scroll will be updated by Sunday night, so all the new members will have their credit up there.
We got one more super chat there.
We did? We got one?
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. Shinobili, thanks for the $5. MMT requires the U.S. dollars being the reserve currency of the world, which equals empire. Well, yeah, that's what it seems like to me.
That's my take. I mean, honestly, I might write, whenever we do a very think piece kind of thing on Substack, it never does as well. I mean, we haven't really been in the article business for a while. Maybe something like that will do better as a video essay. I gotta say, and I've recommended this movie before, I think David Byrne's True Stories captured the tone of American life at that moment in the 80s and 90s, this moment of post-Cold War prosperity and deep ennui and confusion to a degree that made the country almost seem surreal and ironical. He captured that better than anybody. I mean, if you look at the song As the Days Go By, like that really captures that moment in America. And I watch it now, and I still think it's a great work of art, but it lacks the perspective of what that wealth is based on. And I think, I'm just more knowledgeable now. I understand that movie as an exercise in the problems of wealthy colonizers, of people whose ability to have these kinds of very upscale problems is predicated on the suffering of workers around the world. So I would recommend the movie anyway. But that's definitely, I look at a lot of these touchstones of that period. When I just did the Istanbul thing with They Might Be Giants, I wound up watching, because YouTube fed it to me, Birdhouse in Your Soul. I haven't heard that song in forever. And you watch it, and the whole cultural signaling of them, only a rich country could have even produced those guys.
Right.
It's all about irony, and look how silly we are. You have to really have no real problems to afford to be ironic, right? Like irony is a privilege, I think. And so much of our cultural product in that period, and of course I'm watching it now also from a much fallen America. Like, I don't even think a lot of that is intelligible now. Like, it wouldn't even make sense now. We're starting to have real problems. Right? Like you look at a lot of that stuff, it just, we're not really producing artists like that now. It wouldn't make any sense.
Right. Exactly. Okay. I think that is our show. We got another super chat. Anonysaurus, thanks for the $5. Pro-labor Republican here. Oh, great. Excellent. Just found you guys through Pasta. Love your commentary. Thank you. Great work, guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Thank you. And
appreciate that very much.
we should mention something. I forgot to
Oh, he died?
Sound drop. Yeah, he died a couple days ago. With everything going on, it just didn't get a lot of play. Just like Suzanne Summers kind of got buried in the news cycle.
Yes. Rest in peace, Burt Young. Absolutely. There was another piece of news that came across the wire here. Formerly, the New York Times reported. So the aid package, God, you could tell things are going quickly when that alert just kind of disappeared down my phone, a million scrolls. I can't find it. The aid package that Biden requested was, I think it was $101 billion, $10 billion for Israel, $60 billion for Ukraine, which is what reports were that it was going to be. Once again, folks,
that's what they proposed.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's what they're asking for. Yep. Well, like we said, it's all up to Matt Gaetz now. it's in his hands.
I want to take this one. Yeah, man. I want you to go watch They Might Be Giants, and then I want you to go listen to Robert Johnson. We're talking about two very different things there, man.
Yeah, it's talking about a different kind. Exactly. Alrighty. Sounds good, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful audience today. Please hit us up, dudissidents.substack.com. That is a free email list. It is imperative that you sign up for that, please. We do not spam you with a million emails a day. We only send you the announcements when we're going live. We send you the podcast version, the audio podcast version of the live stream, usually a day or two after the fact. And now that we actually have a Substack following now, because we got a lot of Substack followers the past few weeks, we'll start doing our written articles again. Right. So that's it. We don't bomb you with emails, right? You're not going to get an email
we do
every 2
need
hours
you
from us.
to sign up on Patreon so that we have enough money to hire somebody who will bomb you with emails.
With emails, right? We need an intern.
We don't have time
to do
for
that. We don't have time for that. Yeah, but like we don't send you a Substack email when we drop a clip on YouTube, right? We're not going to send you 5-6 emails a day, blow up your inbox and stuff like that. But it really is important that you stay in touch with us in multiple platforms. So, great pleasure to be here with you all this morning. Thank you very much. We will be back Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here. Thanks very much for being here, everybody, today. Until we see you all again, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.